Good morning, 5th and 6th graders. It's our final history chapter on the land down under Australia and our final 2 cards for the school year. This is the continent/country of Australia, and the capital of Australia is Canberra. Canberra, Australia. You'll notice on the back here, you see that, of course, this country, as we're going to talk about in just a moment, is in the southern hemisphere. It's called the land down under because it's down under the equator. They have an awesome accent in Australia. I'm not going to attempt it, but I love to hear Australians talk. Over here to the east, you have the Pacific Ocean. To the west, you would have the Indian Ocean. And of course, there are a lot of islands also close to Australia. And then the last country for the year is a part of Oceania, which is a group of islands that's kind of splattered out in the southern parts of the Pacific Ocean and to the south of Australia. New Zealand's capital is Wellington, and so those are your final 2 cards. New Zealand, Wellington. A couple of fun facts about Australia. Australia is sometimes, it has several nicknames, the island continent, the land down under, and sometimes it's called the lucky continent because it has the world's largest iron ore and bauxite aluminum exports. Also, it has lots of silver and zinc within this continent. Unusual animals can be found in Australia, and it's home to the world's most venomous snakes as well. We're going to talk about Australian animals in another video later this week. But the Tasmanian devil can be found in Australia. It has the jaw strength of a crocodile. Also, a couple of Australian words for you. Instead of saying barbecue grill, or they might would say, let's, barbecue tonight, let's do some hamburgers or steaks. They would say, let's throw them on the Barbie. And then the word clothing in Australia is clobber. And the word cotton candy, I just thought this was kind of funny, is the word fairy floss. So they go to maybe an amusement park and get fairy floss as a sweet treat. Let's take a look at a couple of images. This is the continent of Australia. It was not discovered until the 1700s. People begin to think if there are so many lands in the northern hemisphere, there has to be some land in the southern hemisphere as well to balance it out. But it wasn't until the 1700s that this brave explorer, Captain James Cook, sailed below the equator and discovered Australia as well as other countries to the south. In Australia, you have the beautiful waters of the Great Barrier Reef where scuba diving can be taking place. You have the Opera House in Sydney, Australia. That's a very iconic establishment. As I mentioned a moment ago, unusual animals in this land. And then Uluru Rock, which is a large sandstone formation in the central part of Australia. There's an image of Captain James Cook, and this particular map shows some of his explorations to this land down to the south. Australia goes by several names. We talked about it being the only country that is also a nation in land size. It's about the size of the United States of America. It is an island continent because it is surrounded by water, and it is also called the land down under. Here is an image of the Great Barrier Reef, the beautiful sea green waters that you could scuba dive with over 1,200 miles of coral reef, coral polyp, the Great Barrier Reef. It's off the eastern side of Australia. Also along the eastern side, you have the Great Dividing Range, which is the mountain range in Australia. And their highest mountain is Mount Kosciuszko. I'll say it once more for you, Mount Kosciuszko. In the central part of Australia, you would have the Murray River, which is the longest river flowing year-round in Australia. They also have, as one of their big rivers, the Darling River. Here's the Murray River right in this area. Now, Australia has the largest artesian basin in the world. An artesian basin is an area of underground water. So here you have the surface of land, and you have the lake, and then here shows this artesian basin, and there's a well here that they use to pump water from, but it's literally an area of underground water. And that is in Australia, and it's the largest one in all of the world. Now, on the western side, you have the desert region of Australia, and sometimes it's called the outback. Now, tomorrow I'll come back and we will discuss a little bit about the awesome animals and plants that live in Australia. I know you're going to enjoy this chapter.